This is one of the shots that makes the day, and it was one of the cooler experiences of my trip. After several months, I started feeling more comfortable with this lens in PA, but it was great to take to Colorado. There aren't really surprises with the RF 100 to 400. It's dark, but it's compact and affordable. And if you don't expect more than those three things out of it, then I think you're gonna have a good time. Here are a few things you might find helpful. If you don't like to crop much already, you definitely will know how after using this lens for just a few months. For the bald eagle shots, and for some of these others, I'm punching in so far that the files are down to something like 2000 by 2500 pixels, even close to 1200 by 1500 in some cases. And that's fine for socials, right? I usually export my 4x5 Instagram shots at 1620 by 2025. That's a great size for Instagram. More importantly for me, I think, is that they fit nicely at 100% on a 4K YouTube timeline. Maybe not a great size for the long haul, but I try not to worry about that too much. I can save my Lightroom catalogs and re-export, and by the time that 1620 by 2025 looks really shitty, I'll have become a better photographer and shot better photos to begin with. Keep in mind that I'm shooting with the R6 and the R8 right now, so 20 and 24 megapixels respectively. The 20 megapixel R6 is kind of worst case scenario when trying to use resolution as reach here, but I haven't found it miserable. After using this lens, I think I'd like more resolution, but it's not a requirement, and using this lens is the first time that I feel like I consistently want a little bit more. Otherwise, it's fairly rare that I feel like I want more than 20 megapixels. That said, if you are new to 400 like I was, your first reaction is going to be, wow, that's neat. And your second reaction will be, I wish I had a 600. You might get addicted to the reach. Second thing, use Lightroom AI denoise to your advantage. Your ISO will be bumped, and AI denoise does take time to process, but I've been really happy with the results when I can keep it between 25 and 50% strength. If you're working with a slower machine and these adjustments are really chugging, try to find a value that works well across all of the images that you need to process. I find maybe around 35%. Select everything that you want to denoise and then kick off a batch process. Go grab yourself a little treat and wait until it's finished. 2023 was kind of the year of the mask for me in my editing, and I would encourage you to utilize that to the fullest when shooting with this 100 to 400. Lean into the automatic subject selection in Lightroom, and then duplicate and invert that same mask so that you can apply adjustments to everything but the subject, and then get creative. I found that in many shots, I sort of had to over-edit to experiment with a look and then pull back my editing on a second pass, which frankly is no different than how I would edit any big catalog regardless of the lens. I think it's good practice, but I think it's especially true when trying to create extra subject background separation when using and fighting against at times this f8 aperture. And then this next one gets a little bit weird. I don't want to offend any purists, but I'm embracing tools like generative fill so far. As photographers, we're going to have to navigate and discuss how we're using some of these new AI tools, and I am trying to cautiously embrace them optimistically. Generative fill has been really powerful in helping clean up some distracting background elements that you'll inevitably wish you could avoid while shooting with this lens. Now, Lightroom's early access lens blur has been a lot less effective for me on the AI front, though I haven't given up on it completely just yet. I hope something like this will get to the same point that AI denoise is at today in terms of usefulness to me, smart enough to refine the depth map so that a 20 to 40% strength results in a very realistic blur that helps fight background distractions. But as of now, and you probably know this if you've given it a shot, the depth map doesn't have a nice roll-off. And for many photos, particularly when you have some foreground elements extending over an out-of-focus background, it's just not that great. You can tell. When in doubt, when you're trying to create that better separation, rely on good technique and get close to your subjects, particularly for birds. You want you, your bird, and a vast distance between them and the next item in the background. Obviously, you're not going to want to get too close to animals with stabbing implements. This guy was pretty hidden right along a trail and we stumbled upon him. Otherwise, it would have normally been hard to get so close. And you wouldn't want to anyway in the wild, for you or for the animal. There are 3 ways that I hope to personally explore the long focal length shooting in the future. I'd love to get my hands on a Canon R7 at some point. I think the 100 to 400 likely really shines with that body with the built-in reach, but I don't know for sure yet myself. I've never shot higher megapixel, probably not more than the 24 on the R8, or I think that's the RP as well. It would be cool to see how the sharpness is with this lens on the R5 and how much the extra pixels allow for reasonable cropping. So trying to A, get that reach in camera with an R7, and B, get that reach in post by cropping in with an R5. And then I've talked about this before and will continue to talk about it, as this is kind of a Super long-term trial for me. I want to get my hands on the 100 to 500, see what I'm missing at 500, see if I really want more than 500, see how the brighter apertures do throughout the range on that lens. And hopefully, with any luck, I'll be able to try all three of those things for myself and here on the channel in 2024. Check out this video for more thoughts here. It's from right before the trip. Completely different examples. I'm 5 years into photography and kind of hitting a wall, so I leaned heavily into this lens in 2023 for a challenge. I want to start narrowing in, start formulating a stronger style, kind of power through that wall in 2024. And in figuring that out, I wanted to wrap my head around what long lens wildlife or long lens landscape might be like, starting with this 100 to 400 lens.